Welcome to the show, everyone. On this episode, we talk about gatekeepers. And be aware, this is a Friday night episode. So we are drinking not water in these cups if you're watching us on YouTube. The thing that I love so much about this episode is you really hear how different the D, the I, the S, and the C deal with gatekeepers. And sometimes it's not about getting past them. It's about relating to them, making them part of your sales process. Things I want you to take away. Listen to how Nan talks about how she treats gatekeepers, because it's radically different from how Clint and Al deal with them, and really even how I deal with them, because if you're listening really closely, you're going to see me slide to that S quadrant, so that way I can have the best percentage possible about working with the gatekeeper to get to the decision maker. If you get any value out of this, please share it with someone who's struggling with gatekeepers. Follow us on social media. Everything is at Sales Throwdown. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that subscribe button. You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. In the D corner, we have Clint the Cleaver Bigelow. In the I corner, we have Al the Gambler Daniel. In the S corner, we have Nan the Promoter Foreman. In the C corner, we have John Small Mountain Hill. Let's get ready to throw down!
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Welcome back.
I'm already laughing because we kind of started before the tape started rolling.
We've been talking for an hour.
Pre-game.
All right.
For an hour. An hour.
Let's talk about why we're here tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Tell us.
Talking about how to get or deal with gatekeepers.
Get past gatekeepers.
What are gatekeepers?
All right, so let's talk about that, right? Because I already love the fact that Clint is talking about how you have to get past them, right? As like an obstacle to move around, right? My approach is different. I'm sure Nan's approach is different.
100%.
The gatekeeper is the person who is at that front desk, who the barrier between you and the decision maker.
Or, the secretary to the C-suite.
Absolutely.
That's probably the wrong word to use, the administrative assistant.
Sure.
I'm already in trouble, right?
And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
He always will be in trouble.
Because there's a difference between the admin and the right-hand person and the gatekeeper who's just there to like push you away for today only, right?
Oh, good
because
point.
you have an admin, Al, who's your right-hand person. If they don't make nice with Melissa, who's your admin, they're never getting to you.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
We often talk about decision makers being at the top of the food chain. Sometimes
For sure.
they're right at the bottom, and they're the first person you deal with.
Absolutely.
First step in the roadblock there.
Yeah. So I'm curious from Al's point of view, because he has a gatekeeper and someone who has worked with Al for a very long time, right? You said on
first employee I ever hired.
Yeah.
Fed her before I could feed myself.
That's amazing, right? I love that because
24 years.
I couldn't put up with you for that long, if I'm being really honest about it.
You don't have to.
I gotta be honest, I don't even like doing it for the 2 hours that we're here.
There's the
Amen,
door,
brother.
bitch.
And only 1 hour ends up on tape for everybody else.
Oh, it's not
Good point,
that
good
damn
point.
bad.
It
You
is
guys
that damn bad.
quit
And I don't ever
exaggerating.
cuss.
Hey, before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to Naomi, the girl who cut my hair today.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
If you're watching this on
No way.
YouTube,
This
No
is
our sound guy
way.
is giving you the most.
how good does this look, man? It's
Wait, did she cut your hair or hairs? I'm always confused.
Well, when she runs her fingers through it, not in a sexual way, it's thin. I'm like, holy shit, I'm bald or getting
right.
there.
Enough about you.
Naomi works up at the boardroom in South Lake, so if any cool cats want to run up there and get a haircut, hit that. And
Sean needs to go tomorrow.
give a shout out for
looking
Sales
solid.
Podcast. I don't think you get a discount just yet, but we're working on it. Anyway, enough
South
said.
Lake is in North Texas and DFW area. If you're not familiar,
Get on a plane. We got an airport.
it's bigger than the island of Manhattan, everybody. So back to gatekeepers. Let's
Subject.
talk about them a little bit, right? Because Al's gatekeeper is the anomaly, right? They're the right hand, right? You have got to show value to this person. If she's ever going to schedule an appointment, let you talk to Al, anything else like that. That's not the normal case, though. Al's got something to say.
But she is bought into the benefit that we don't do it alone, right? That we do need vendors. We need some outside support, that we want to hear a little bit about what you have to offer that may be of benefit to us. So it's not that she shuts everybody down. because she interviews plenty of people, right? I guess it's kind of interesting that you brought that up, because I always, when you say gatekeeper, I think about the people that I face as I go out and try to get into offices.
For sure.
I don't think, hey, I have my own, which is
You do, though.
a new revolution. Like
Absolutely.
sitting right here, I'm like, oh, light bulb went on.
Evolution.
I've got one. Yeah, I stumbled on that word.
It's all right.
That was
We
the
all do.
pregame coming out. But yeah, you're right. I do have a gatekeeper, and she does a damn good job. She always has.
So let me ask you this question. So how long was it until she was good at letting the right people through?
So there's an interesting story. So this
Of
is
course
when we had
there
a
is. You're an
clinic.
eye.
She's sitting at the front desk. I'm back there doing some notes. I'd seen a patient or two, and straight hallway back to different areas where you could see patients or do x-rays, do all that kind of stuff. And I hear at the front desk, hey, you can't go back there. And then I hear a man's voice, yeah, something like that. And
Oh,
I
damn.
realize somebody has just marched right past her. So I step out into the singular hallway that leads back to the front door in the waiting room. And there's a guy coming up, and I say, hey, MF, you better get out of this office before I get to you. And he turns and runs. Runs. I forgot all about this.
Wow.
Runs with something he's in his hand. And Melissa's eyes are this big, like saucers. I'm walking. I'm not running, but he's running. I'm walking. So he beats me to the front door, and out the door he goes. And she meets me, and she goes, that was just a sales guy. And I'm like, I mean, I
I
had a
don't
full
care.
head of steam. I mean, yeah, I didn't. And interesting. Yeah. Funny
How long
that you-
ago was this? If you had to ballpark it,
21 years ago.
21 years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
I was much younger and a little.
A little more reckless.
No, I'm still reckless.
Yeah, you are.
Seriously? What
wrong
in the
choice of
world?
words.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, no, yeah. That's still
Completely reckless.
exists.
Oh
So-
my gosh.
So Melissa is the outlier there, right? You know, if you're dealing with the executive suite, you might run into people like Melissa who you got to make nice with. You got to show them some value, right? They know the pains, those pain points that you're trying to address with the eventual decision maker. What we're really trying to talk about is the other type of gatekeeper, right? And Melissa's not even really a gatekeeper.
Not
right?
any longer, but
Yeah.
she was at one time.
You know, the average gatekeeper, and this is an important point, they're not there to turn you away for forever. They're there to turn you away for today. And that's an important point to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Clint is rolling his eyes.
Good point.
Oh man, that never happens.
I got some shit to say about it. No, I'm joking. No, it's a good point.
So in my world, I don't have to deal with gatekeepers very often anymore. When I worked for Al, I had to deal with a lot of gatekeepers, right? That front desk of, yeah, sure, if you want to bring in lunch, just go ahead and write when you want to come in. We're booked for the next 7 months. So just go ahead and put it on the calendar. Hope you remember, kind of thing. But I don't really have to deal with that very much anymore. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I'm curious for Nan specifically, how do you deal with gatekeepers?
Why Nan specifically?
Well,
I think you deal with it the most, probably.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's going to sound so but that's okay. I just really, listening to y'all, I think, now why, it sounds to me that y'all think this person is less than
Ooh.
I am.
Good question.
And I'm thinking, what?
point.
They're just the same. They're a person doing their job just like I am. And I carry that on even to the doctors I'm calling on, even the neurosurgeon, you know, the big guys, because I'm not better than them. And I know this sounds so blooming corny, but I'm not better than them. They have a mood. I need to look at their mood. First of all, I need to come in with a good mood. It doesn't matter if, sorry, John, but it doesn't matter if my dog died. You know, it just, you know.
I know you picking. I mean, that's an
Hashtag
open
too
wound.
soon.
I
You
know.
just like,
I'm sorry, baby. I'm
Hashtag too
sorry.
soon.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But my point being,
That's horrible.
there,
More like hashtag Team D.
I'm just saying, you know, bad things happen to everyone. So quit acting like you are like walking in there like all hoity-toity and you're all wonderful. they have a life too that they've had to deal with. So
Wait a second. No, but okay,
No.
fair enough. But what about the stupid bitch that's just like in your face and you're like, look, how about a conversation instead of before you throw me out the front door?
So I'm going to address that.
Like your
Thank
business
you.
doesn't deal with anybody but internal people? I mean, stop. You know?
Can I say that
All right.
my thought is that that's
I
probably
got shut down for niceness.
I don't think you got shut down.
I think that
And
that's
I
your
really feel this.
that's your first sell, right? It's a sell of
Agreed.
many to get through the door. If that's truly a gatekeeper that has been probably instructed by the C-level people to close you out as a outside sales rep to come in that door, I would say most of them are instructed to say, okay, if they don't have an appointment, if they didn't call ahead, if we're not aware, those people get turned away.
Thank you, Clint. So my point was before, I know y'all didn't get to hear it because somebody interjected his emotion, but my point is that everyone has feelings and there's something going on in everyone's life. And if you go in and just act like you're all that, do you think that's going to get you anywhere? And are you going to walk down the hall going, I don't need to listen to you? And then how did that work for that guy? So you have to be mindful of what's going on with the other person that you're dealing with.
Can I ask you a question?
Please do, sir.
So you just naturally bring your personal life to your job to create misery for other people? Is that what I'm hearing you say? Oh, woe is
No,
me.
sir.
I'm having a bad day, so I need to like F your day up too?
No,
Let's
but
just spread this ill will. Let's just
Can I-
spread this discontent.
Okay, but,
let's just
sir,
spread.
if we
Now
can
you're speaking my language.
no.
Lord.
You've got to
Enough.
let me share this. No, but okay, so if you walk in with anger, frustration, irritation,
I only
attitude,
get irritated if you're irritated. I woke up in a happy mood. I usually do.
that doesn't make any sense, Dr. Daniel. Okay, so you really can predict what that person's going to do.
I can't predict anything.
Exactly. So quit talking for just a moment. And all I'm trying to tell you is there is actually, you will create whatever you bring to that person. If you go in with a freaking attitude,
Well
you
put.
will get attitude back.
I love that, actually.
I do too.
Because
Thanks
It's the truth.
That
That's
is-
why you
Thanks
love
for
it.
interrupting hashtag Team I there for 20
Lord.
minutes
Absolutely.
to prove that point.
If you're watching on YouTube, check out these sweet cups. They got our logo on the front.
Lovely.
They got our teams on the back. Team C, best team.
Our ice water.
But ice water. Because I don't think that anybody other than Dees and Clint see gatekeepers as
Dees and
inherently a
Clint.
bad thing.
That's the same thing.
Exactly, right?
Well,
but I'm
kinda.
I'm
not-
illuminating, right?
I'm probably a little bit higher than the rest of the Ds.
Why is it always a competition?
I don't
You
know,
you don't even know all the Ds that are listening.
because you got to. I don't know. It's just my nature. I don't know.
Because like when I started in B2B for Al, I was like, oh man, gatekeepers, okay, cool. I can work with this. I can figure this out. And then eventually it became the frustration. And it eventually became this thing that was keeping me between me and my task.
Yeah.
And so that's where my
Imagine that you put it in your process.
agitation. Of course I did.
Okay, here's my thought on that, because they have a struggle too. They have a task too. So you said they keep me between me and my task. Well, you know what their task is?
To block you out.
Well,
Today.
hold on, but they also have other things that they do. They answer phones a lot of
Oh,
times.
man, they're the busiest people in the office.
A
Oh,
lot of times they are.
I don't think that.
don't
Everyone's
think so?
busy. No, everyone's busy.
you don't think?
Oh,
Hold on.
stop.
Hold on.
Wait,
Did you really
hold
think
the
that one
phone.
through?
I really do think that.
They don't
You
do
don't-
anything
No, I think they do. I think
except for
everyone.
wait for salesmen to come in and like agitate them.
I think everyone is doing a lot of crap. That's why I laugh when people go, "I'm really too busy. I've just
Let
got a
me-
busy
oh
day."
my
I'm
God,
like,
I
"So
hate
is
that.
everyone."
Let me walk you through my office at 2:30 on a Friday.
Is there anybody there?
No.
Good luck at that sales call.
My
like
thing,
crickets.
okay, this is slightly off topic, but when I'm out networking and someone is just talking about how busy they are, all I'm thinking is just, this is a failure of you being able to plan accordingly.
I agree. You
Right?
did nothing preemptive.
Absolutely. Right.
This is literally a cold call in person.
Yeah. You oversold yourself. You've done
Oh,
something.
buddy.
Your processes are terrible.
You want to put yourself in the hottest situation that you're going to get as a salesperson. Drive into a parking lot of somebody you've never done anything research on, preemptive strikes, and you go knock on the door and you run into the secretary. Good luck, buddy.
Oh,
I mean, good luck. But that's what we're talking about. How do we navigate that? Because some people have to do that. Some people's quotas push them
Required.
through that.
They just they're like
repetition.
Yeah.
Go knock on
You're-
60
you're-
doors
you're
and
How
get
is
that right.
anyone
Right.
successful doing
There
that?
are-
people
It's
are.
ridiculous.
Right.
But people
There-
are.
there are
And-
some
And they're
people-
professionals at navigating this topic right here.
oh, absolutely.
There's
right?
people out there that can do that.
But to Nan's point, the people that do that really, really well are the people who can empathize and make it
Thank
about
you.
that
That's so
gatekeeper.
true.
Because I'll tell you what,
I agree with that.
When
and I
I
have
started-
no empathy.
I know you don't. That's
True.
well, you've made that abundantly clear numerous times. But when I started to like kind of go down this path of like, man, I'm frustrated. I'm not getting any better by myself. Like, let me see if I can find someone who's better than me, and I'll go sit at their feet for the metaphor there. First thing they told me was like, make it about them, right? Because they get, for lack of a better term, shit on by everybody else. So if I can show up and pay them a little bit of attention, right, and say, hey, I know the doctor's busy. If you were me,
Yeah, there you go.
when would you come back?
Yep.
I'm involving them in the conversation
hey,
at
Thank
that
you.
point.
They're
I
another
know
person.
that this is as uncomfortable for you as it is for me. I'm showing up unannounced. I apologize for that.
I love that as a pattern interrupt.
Yep.
It's such a good one.
Kind of slipping that back on yourself, letting her say, you know what, I have some compassion for you a little bit because I understand this is awkward for me. I hate this part of my job because I would guess that most of them do. They don't want to. They don't want to be
I
interjected
think you're
through
right.
their day.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of, like you said, pattern interrupt and say, hey, this is really awkward for me. I saw the sign on the door. It sounded like something that the business that I'm in. I'm just trying to figure out what you guys do,
Yeah.
not what they do, what you do, because you're a part of that team.
Acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Yep.
Yeah.
I showed up unannounced.
Yep. I'm
You don't
sorry.
know who the hell I am, and I don't
Apologize.
even know if you're the person I should talk to or
Right.
not.
You've got to benefit people. You can't just.
Before we go on with a bunch of theories, me personally, I think that there's 3 ways to navigate this problem.
Okay.
Or I don't know if problem's the right word, but this situation, you can sell around it. There's ways to do that. You can
Yeah.
sell right around a gatekeeper. It's not easy.
Wait at the back door till
You can't-
lunch.
Yeah, stalkerish.
look,
or
hold on.
or
Because
in
I've
Al's
got a,
world, you show
because-
up in the hospital in the halls.
Absolutely.
Oh, doc, strange to see you here.
I've got a great story about how I've sold around a gatekeeper.
Okay.
Great story. I'll go into that here in a second. Number 2 option, leave. It's-
Go to lunch.
Right? Go to
Happy
lunch,
hour.
find another place,
Yeah.
do some research, find another customer. 2 is you sell through them.
You mean 3?
Yeah, 3. Lost count. It's tough. Had to take my boots off.
1, 2, 3.
Pre-game.
Number 3 is that you sell through them. You use them as a part of your process. They're your first sale. We mentioned that earlier. That you sell to them first. They agree to introduce you. But sometimes, guys, that's not in the same conversation. It might be 4th conversation, 5th conversation.
Can I add a point there? Because a lot of people talk about this idea that you're supposed to overwhelm the gatekeeper with like facts and
don't.
features and benefits.
That's exactly what I was about to
That's
say. You are
terrible.
not
Take
selling to them.
Hey,
You are only
So if
getting the
you
next
listen
step.
to my 3 options, take that, hip pocket it, and go with number 2 and turn the fuck around.
Oh, gosh.
Well put. I agree.
Right? Because one of the things that I have found to be super successful for myself, which is not comfortable, is to be vulnerable, right? Because when you're a little bit vulnerable, you're approachable.
Wait a second. You told me you cried earlier today.
I did. Okay.
You are. You
Oh
can
my
be
God,
vulnerable.
really? We're going to put this out here?
No, we're not
Gosh.
going to. I'm just simply saying well,
worse than
everybody
what I
can. So you do have empathy.
I do.
So-
right? I do. But that's different because I'm around my family.
No, I understand. What I'm
Right.
saying is, and that was tongue in cheek.
In my
a little
role,
bit.
you give me a goal. I want to work to get that. I want to work to get to that goal.
and that's where you slide away, like we talked
Hey.
about.
Seas cry, man.
Hey.
It happens.
I have tears.
Everyone
Right?
cries.
I have tears. They're red, white, and blue.
When the spreadsheets don't work, there's ones here.
You cry. Yeah, you're a little verklempt, right?
Yeah,
I'm a little
absolutely.
verklempt.
Mine
But,
scream freedom.
He's
but-
a Marine.
This idea that
We love him,
that you're
and we
supposed
love America.
to overwhelm the gatekeeper and they're just going to give up eventually.
Well, that's a
I've never
way.
found that to be sustainable and scalable.
That's a way. You're right. It's not efficient. Efficiency.
Of course.
It's
Al's got
just
something
not.
to say. What do you got, Al?
Well, I was going to say, so you go and you have a bad experience with a gatekeeper, right?
Mhm.
And you know you got to go back into that office. And maybe it's a big target. It's not something you can write off as a pretend, like, I got to get in there. So I can see where you eventually, if the first time is a bad experience, because I've had this happen, to the point where it's happened two ways, where I come back in and I'm like, me again, right? And I, and I almost have that written on my face when I walk through the door.
What a great way.
Yeah, I mean, because
that would work for me.
Because you can see it in their face when the tenseness begins to tense up again, and I'm like, this woman, I think, may hate me for no apparent reason, right? Because we haven't got very far. But then I've had the other ones that showed me sympathy. But, and you guys can't see this, but as I hand my literature or I try to get something to make the next move, they just sort of almost have compassion because they're like, they're not going to let me in this time either, right?
They know as soon as you walk out, that shit's going in the trash.
Right. And I know it too, right? And it's just a lose-lose, right?
Okay, so that is true. You will completely get shut down by, I don't know why do we have to say gatekeeper? From that front.
What would you like to call it?
I was going to say, because hold on, right? This
you
is
will
an
get
important
shut
point.
down.
It's not always the executive assistant or the front desk admin.
I can tell you a million other people in my industry.
Call it someone. You say gatekeeper.
All right, okay.
It's an analogy for the person who is blocking.
Sometimes I deal with an estimator, 25-year vet estimator in a company, and he's my gatekeeper because I can't get past him to the decision maker. But I'm turning bids into that guy.
All right.
He's a gatekeeper.
So for the sake of this conversation, a decision maker is anyone who can tell you a no, but cannot tell you a yes.
That's right. That's a great fucking point.
They block you if they have any way to do that.
That's your nugget for this episode. If you are spending too much time with people who can only give you a no without giving you a yes, you need to reevaluate how you are.
Not to put you on the spot, but did you just come up with that?
That's beautiful.
That was.
I mean, I'll bask in it.
Dang, write a book on that shit.
Say it one more. John, just say it one more time.
Don't spend time with people who can't give you a yes.
I think everybody heard it the first time, but
hey,
we appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's good to know.
I'm complying with the request of the yes.
There's a reverse on this, right?
She's only 25%. It's not a majority.
Thank you for giving me that, John.
All right, so Nan, right? Because I don't think Al's got to deal with too many gatekeepers anymore. I don't think Clint has got to deal with too many gatekeepers. I think of the four of us, you got to deal with them the most.
Okay, so reality. I just tried to find a way, and I'm truly trying to be genuine, that I can relate with them. I'm not just treating them like they're just some silly person sitting there in a chair. I want to get to know them, and by them getting to know me in the same. So I know them, they get to know me, and I know y'all are like, oh God, I don't want to do that. But I'm telling you, it truly matters because they don't ever get any kind of special behavior going on in their life.
So
in the office.
Here's a potential nugget. If you're not building rapport with that front desk person, how much rapport are you building with the decision maker when you finally get past that person? Because rapport, as we all know, is super important. If you're not seeking out if they're a D, I, S, or C, you are working in the dark because I can't sell to Al the same way that I would sell to you, Ned, or to Clint as the D. So if you're not taking that opportunity to build some rapport with someone who is at low hanging fruit, because call it what you will, they're there. They're easy to talk to. So where are they on this scale? Because that's super important to figure out.
What's the expectation? I think that's key for me, because if you go in with this expectation that they're going to lead you down this golden hallway into the golden gates of a C-level person,
not my expectation.
No, I'm not saying it's yours. I'm saying recognize your expectation and what you're trying to get out of this meeting. You're trying to get some information, period.
So let's talk about one thing we have not talked about, right? Yet in an enterprise sale, right, in a huge company, and there's multiple people, you got to cultivate internal champions, right? People who will work on your behalf to sell you to people up the chain and things like that.
Absolutely.
Because if you're dealing with like a huge mega company and there's thousands of people in it, if you're just the only guy who's pulling for you, you're never making it because politics, it'll ruin you.
So I deal with hospitals now, right?
Absolutely.
And frontline clinics. So you go to a hospital and everybody's like, it's the greatest put off. Well, I've got to talk to so-and-so, and meaning their boss or somebody they claim to be their boss.
You were telling that story last night.
The point is that they have an out, right? Because of the bigness of the project.
Oh yeah.
Right? And well, I've got to check with this department
this
or
is
that
about my
department.
pay grade.
Or they they accept that they have a conversation with you, right? And that they will then defer. You guys are laughing for what reason?
I'm laughing at Nan because she finds this so funny. But
Sorry, go ahead.
What do you
I'm
find
not laughing
so
at
funny?
you inherently, but keep going.
Go
keep
ahead,
going.
sir.
Well, where I'm going with this is you have to then turn that person into a champion to help you get to that next level.
Absolutely,
right?
for sure.
So you
100%.
you begin the empathy of, oh man, okay, and whatever that verbiage is that comes out should bond the two of you, right? So that when they work now for you.
Absolutely.
Make them your employee. They are on your payroll at that point, in my opinion. And I clearly see it that way. I'm like, now it's us.
But you got to be
working
careful
move-
about that, though, right?
How
because
so?
because here's the downside of that. Me personally, I don't ever want to put someone else in a position who's not a salesperson to go have to sell me to their boss.
No, but I didn't say they
Right?
do the sales work.
I want you to like me and see value and introduce me, and then work on my
Introduce,
on my
right.
point.
But hold on,
The team.
if they bring a great project up the ladder and you win,
That's true.
and if they believe
They're
in
so
this,
golden.
then and you don't screw it up, because they can only help you and you can only hurt them. So think about it that way.
But here's the deal, right? Your right hand gatekeeper, whatever you want to call her, Melissa, employee number 1, is a D.
I think she's
God bless her.
a C.
She's not a C. She's absolutely not.
She's definitely not a C.
Right? So
She's a D.
at that point, you have to be able to deal with her a little bit different than someone who is the traditional gatekeeper, who's going to be more along the lines of Nan, right? That S,
Okay.
right? So
I'm not seeing that out there
but
either.
it's way harder
I was going to say, I
to
see
get
D's
someone
as gatekeepers.
like Clint and Melissa, who's your gatekeeper, to get fired up about this idea. Man, you got to meet John because he's awesome.
I didn't say that.
What did I miss?
You incorporate, because they hold the keys to the kingdom,
Sure.
right? So you make them your confidant, right? I don't know if this works or doesn't work. I don't know if this makes sense or doesn't make sense.
How hard is it to make Clint your confidant? He didn't care about you.
I'm sorry, I'm confused now. If I'm talking to a gatekeeper who you guys say is a D or maybe an S, what I'm looking for, no?
Not an S. There's no way, Melissa.
I didn't say
Is
that.
an
I'm
S.
talking in general
Okay,
terms
sorry.
of whoever you're speaking to
Okay.
is somebody that you have to get in on your side
Sure.
to move the project up to the next level. Because all they can say is no. They
Correct.
can't say yes, like
Absolutely.
you said. So that I prefer to not hear the no. So I have to figure out how to make them team I, right?
Agreed.
I have to get them on my side
How do you
because
do
I'm
that?
going to see them over and over again because they're my funnel. I'm not. I'll actually get a little nervous if they're not there. Right?
Well, one of the things you told me whenever I first started was you should build these relationships to a point where you can just walk straight past that front desk and they know you're coming in.
Just
and
wave
you've
at
got-
them and
and
open
you
the
have
door.
carte blanche. That doesn't happen if you treat them like crap the
No, it
first
does
4 or
not.
5 times that
Of
you're
course not. Of
So
course not.
I think I'm listening to y'all and I'm going, whoa, no, I think of all my gatekeepers and all my gatekeepers are my friends. They're like people I go, so, I talk about their life. I talk about, I tell them a little bit about my life. I don't think of them as this, I feel like y'all are acting like this person is, I think of them as a genuine person. Like I try to understand who they are. And then when the next time I see them, we're talking a little more about who they are. And that I've built this bond. And then, but there's a fine line because you have to be very careful with, you have the gatekeeper, then you have, it's like a daisy chain.
Oh, for
And
sure.
eventually
Especially for
you
guys.
get to the one person, there's like 1, 2, 3 people that are most important, but they can never feel like they're subservient to, you and this gatekeeper are best friends. And now, does that make any sense to any of y'all? Probably not. Okay.
I think
get it.
that I get it, and
you,
I
John.
think that's for all compassionate people out there. I think that works really well. What happens?
Okay,
so what happens when? So you're talking about tools in your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. I don't have those tools.
So how do you do it then?
Well, I'm going to drop a bombshell on this conversation a little bit. I'm a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
What?
In what way?
I
Explain.
can tell you how. I'm a gatekeeper because vendors think, because of my position in my company, that I influence my people to buy a certain way.
But don't you?
I do.
Okay.
So therefore I am a gatekeeper.
All right.
Right? So I have a lot of people, a lot of vendors that love to try to take me out on venues and try to sell me so that I sell to my group to buy from them. Happens every single day.
Can I interrupt for just because that would make me feel uncomfortable.
As what?
As you're taking me out, you're showing me a good time, and now I, for lack of a better term, I got to put out now, right?
Yeah,
Which means I got to I have to introduce you to someone above me.
So I typically don't, unless I truly buy in on what they're saying. So I'm going to give you a little insight, being a gatekeeper myself, because I'm everything. But here, listen, I truly am a gatekeeper in my company. Sometimes, because if you piss me off the wrong way, I can totally influence them to never buy from you.
That
I
is
can
a
do that.
gatekeeper. That is a gatekeeper.
Can you give them a yes?
No, I can't, but I'm an influencer.
Oh,
It's a perfect example of a gatekeeper here.
Okay.
I'm an influencer. I can't give you a yes, but I can give you a goddamn no. So what happens to me a lot is people try to woo, schmooze me. Let's go on this guided hunt out in Africa. Let's go to Argentina. Let's go dove hunting. Let's go down to the Bahamas. Happens all the time. I'm not saying I don't take all of these.
Dude, why am I still in the Metroplex? That's just
Can
what
I
I
be
want
your
to know.
plus one?
All I'm
Damn.
saying is the gatekeeper.
Obviously, we are
Look,
friends.
Gatekeepers don't have it so
Like,
bad.
hello, who are we to you?
No, I will tell you that it comes down to me as a gatekeeper. It is very factual. It has to be there. What you're providing to
What
me.
is it? What do you mean by it?
I have a problem. Our company has a spot that needs improvement. It needs help. And you're the solution to that. Speak to that. It resonates.
I don't think
What
that's
doesn't-
different than what S is doing. I think
I
I do
didn't
the
say
same.
that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that whatever they're,
You're just not holding hands with them.
yeah.
If you have a good solution, are you willing to listen to someone
Absolutely.
who can improve your solution?
Absolutely. But I want them, I want them to have done research before, because I may not have known that I have a problem or a weak spot. So if somebody approaches me, this doesn't happen real often, but if somebody approaches me and says, hey, I know you're using this other company to do that. Did you know that they don't actually carry that line? They buy it from me. This happens a lot. Oh, really? That's
Happens
interesting.
in my world too.
Yeah.
So question,
Let's talk about that.
If someone shits on your current provider, your current solution provider, does that help you? Or does that make you want to talk to them or listen to them?
It doesn't hurt.
Really?
Well, hold on.
I'm not talking like you trash. If you come in and you trash somebody that I've done business with for a while, or that I'm, that I see as successful, help us be successful, I'm not listening to you because you're an idiot. Truly.
But sometimes they come in with enough knowledge, knowing you're
That's what I'm saying.
unhappy.
That's
with,
what I'm
'cause
saying.
They've heard.
They've done
through
some
the-
research
through the rumor mill that things aren't going well in that
That's right.
company. They may not know how it directly influences you,
You're right.
but they know that they did business with you, and the vultures are circling.
And to be honest with you,
trying to pick up the
99% of the time, if you've done your homework and you've said exactly what Doc Al just said, you come to me and you say those things. I say, well, you know what? I'm not the right guy, but I know a guy. And here's who you need to talk to. It works very well with me. One, because I'm a D and I want you out of my office. I want you gone. And how can I push this on? But I also see value. I'm strategic. I'm deliberate. So I'm going to
You
put
have your own agenda
I do.
that you're trying to accomplish.
because
This guy's sort
because
of
look,
like
if we're
it's not
successful,
any money in his pocket, but
That's
it helps the
interesting.
company that he
Because
currently makes money with, right?
that's right.
Am I
I can't if I can't be successful with the company behind me. We've talked about this prior. If my company back there behind me is not successful in what I do, then I'm not successful.
Yeah.
I can't sell the next thing. So if this person is helping me help my company be successful, that I sell more, it happens.
But so for me, right, if I'm trying to project myself into a gatekeeper role, you better have your shit straight, right? You better bring your facts. You better be really, really, really good. I'm not saying that anyone should bash the current incumbent or anything
No.
else like that. I don't agree with that.
That's weak sauce, man.
But you're a
Absolutely.
decision maker. You said as a gatekeeper,
Sure,
they better
right.
have their
I'm
facts. But we just said
I'm
throwing
trying to,
facts on a gatekeeper.
I'm
may not be-
projecting. Hold on though, right? Because I think that what we're really talking about is this person who I think is more in line with what your gatekeeper is, Al, as this right-hand person who you gotta sell to her before you can sell to you.
Okay, let's call it what it is. It is the emissary or the guy or the gal that's gonna connect you with the yes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's somebody internal.
Next step. I don't know
that's
about yes, but next step.
Next step is
If you run into a gatekeeper, they have just become your liaison in your way to the
there you
company.
go. Better than what I was saying. The liaison.
As a C, you got to have those facts straight, right? For me, right? If you come to me and I'm this person in charge of, right? Because hold on, you're going to get the whole spectrum, right? You might get a D who's a who is a gatekeeper right-hand person, which is your situation. You might get someone like me who's a C. So if you show up and you're spouting all these big facts and everything else that are not backed up and easily proven, no.
Why would
burn
you be
yourself.
spouting facts to somebody who can't make the decision?
But have people
Well, okay,
asked you
but
to
you
do
just
that?
said that, and we should call that wrong, right?
John, has people asked you to do that? Because that's unlike you to spew facts. If
To somebody who can't say yes, because because like I said, if you got a D, you can have a D, and all they know that they can say no, and they got it loaded in the gun, right?
I think he's
It's
just
like a
saying-
single shot shotgun, and the trigger's back, right? I'm waiting for my pow. No,
I'm just saying, be aware that not everyone's going to be an S like Ned.
I don't
like
think
Ned
most
is.
of them are, to be honest with you.
Okay.
What do
you think the majority of them are? If you had to,
CDs?
you think the majority of gatekeepers are CDs?
Yeah.
I think D's.
I
for
mean,
sure.
the ones I've run into, they're harsh, they're cutthroat. They need
disagree.
facts.
That's why they're at the front, because they're trying to stop. the
almost
next-
like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Right?
Look, we're not.
you-
Look, okay, hold on.
Okay.
We're not talking about in a successful business. You're not. Some people put a pretty face out there. Male, female, doesn't matter. They put a pretty face out there so that you feel welcome into your company. Those people. But hear me out here, because those people aren't your gatekeepers. You can get past those guys real easy.
I was going to say, I don't think they do
The
that.
next person that they're going to introduce you is probably your gatekeeper. And most companies that I deal with, those gatekeepers aren't that pretty face sitting out there like, oh yeah, go on back. He's waiting for you. That's not what we're talking about.
I think that depends upon how you prospect. If you're cold calling or cold walking in, you're dealing with that front desk.
Agreed.
person.
But what I'm saying is I don't think that is a majority problem, because those people are easy to navigate.
Okay,
They're not
so
a gatekeeper.
okay, so we've
The next person
identified. We're identifying who the gatekeeper is. Maybe belabored it a bit,
If you've not noticed, Clint and I are really good at arguing with each other.
and so I think Okay, so now have we identified what we're going to do with that person? Anybody?
Yeah, I've got.
I think I have. Al, so how do you deal with a gatekeeper? Gatekeeper.
Dan's had
Is pre-game
the
catching
net
up
has had
to
too
you?
much water.
No, I was going to say edibles, but go ahead.
Never.
We wish.
So Al, right? You know, it's been a while,
What?
right? Most of your relationships are tried and true, right? You know, you've been around the block for a while, so knowing. I don't think you knew as much as you know now.
I think
one
ignorance
does.
is bliss, right? When you first get into a sales role,
That might, to be not interrupt you, but that's probably the best statement in the gatekeeper thing. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, you
play
just
that,
kind of
play that fucking card.
Oh, for sure.
Well, okay, to play that
True.
card, but you play it really well when you first get started in any organization or you first get into sales, right? And then you get a little swag because you've made it. You're kind of
Yeah.
successful, right?
For sure.
And you walk in, and maybe you know the doctor not well enough to just walk through the door, but you met him at a conference, or you've got some kind of common ground that's connected you, but you want a face to face with them because you really haven't gone through your sales routine.
That's interesting, because that ups your percentages 100%.
What does?
A common connection.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'm not cutting you off totally,
go.
because you segue that,
Yeah,
because
there you
if I go to a conference and I meet Bill from ASR Plumbing or whatever the hell we're talking about, and we made a connection there, but we didn't agree to any next steps. If I happen to drive by that place 6 weeks later, one thing you can do, and what you're talking about, is I can walk into that front desk person or that gatekeeper and say, hey, look, I just happen to be in town today. I'm in the area. I know Bill. We met at a conference. That's a whole different conversation than walking in cold.
For sure.
You just upped your percentages.
Okay, so what I would like to share at this point with that statement, that is so true. Ultimately, and not that I should pat myself on the back, but ultimately you need to get to the point that you say hi to the gatekeeper. Hope you're doing great. Talk about that little subject y'all maybe talked about at some point, but you walk right by them because ultimately you don't have. So right now I know we're just learning how to get in front of the gatekeeper, what to do with it, but ultimately you will get, I promise y'all, you get to a point where you don't even have to.
How do you gauge that though?
No,
Because me as a process guy,
When you grab the handle and it doesn't turn, right? Because they haven't hit the button. That's how you gauge
No,
that.
I'm just telling you.
And you look,
You look back over your
and
shoulder,
she says you
and
need
you're
the
like-
scan card.
Exactly. She's shaking her head. No, you're not
And
going
all
through
I'm
that
saying
door.
is,
Gauge
guys,
that as you will. But
So
I
Doc,
just want to give that hope to our listeners that they're
Hope left the building a week ago.
that it is the coolest thing
she
when you
dances
don't
on
have to.
Thursdays.
Or she's in a shallow grave someplace, right?
Just trying to give y'all. Just trying to.
I want to go back to Doc was pushing a point forward. I
All right.
segued it.
There we go.
I don't.
Yeah, man, my mind.
I'm sorry.
My memory's so small.
That was you were talking about.
Shit, I can't.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get back to it, guys. Believe me,
Segues.
we're going to be around for a while, so
that
keep
Alzheimer's
listening.
kicks in early.
Man, the trimmers are next. So.
I was okay with my joke. I'm not okay with your joke.
I
That's
know
really
that's
odd.
terrible. Good Lord.
All right, so Nanette, right?
sir.
I mean, if you're visiting an office, right? It's a brand new office. You've never been there before.
Love it.
Do you have a goal in mind about like?
So
hey,
I had 4 of those calls today, and I literally was just like, "Yay!" Because I love it.
you're the only person who gets excited about.
I wanted to
brand new
bash my head
cold
off the
drop-ins.
table.
Yeah,
it just is so good. I really love it.
So tell me what good means. When you say it's so good, define
Good
that.
is that I can literally go, okay, where am I going to go next? And then I figure it out. And then I go there. I've never been in this office before. And I walk in and I look around the room and I look at the girls. It's usually a girl.
And she says, beehives are back?
Oh shit!
where the hell did
See?
that come from?
He just, I'm so sorry.
But here's the deal. Hold
Girl,
on.
I don't
sorry, didn't
have
finish.
that. I don't have that. And that's why I
That's
want
such a
to,
joke.
I love you.
that I don't have that.
No.
Oh, okay. I was like,
No,
I completely have
I
it.
laugh. I'm
Like, I see
I was
him and I'm
only
like,
saying that
hey.
as a joke.
And I love
right?
it. I like making. So okay,
And she does. She's honest engine over here. So no, I'm not taking anything away from that other than
I don't want to talk the whole time. So I just know the mood of the room, the mood of the girl. It's usually girls. Sorry, I keep saying girls, but know the mood of the person that you're going to talk to. And if they're having a bad day, go, man, how just genuinely relate with the people you're talking to. It sounds so gay. I know.
Hold on. You said
Is
that.
there something wrong with being gay?
No,
Okay.
I just don't know if that's an appropriate word.
You said that. And
Gay
these
as
two
in
guys
happy or
gave
gay
you
as
the
homosexual?
sharpest
Gay
look.
and happy.
It was evil.
It was a sharp look between the two guys.
Because I want to go back to what we said earlier. Most people that we're dealing with, I think us 3 agreed. John, you didn't, but most of these people are CDs.
But it doesn't matter.
No, it does. It so
A
does.
CD. They're mercenaries.
I'm not
C's
ask-
and D's.
Okay, so so you're
me-
assuming that I'm walking into a D going, "Hi,
No.
isn't it beautiful?" No, I'm not doing that.
What I'm trying to say is that
Say
you're dealing
mirror,
with the
mirror.
upper end of the spectrum that has no care for people.
I think, honestly, I'm going to
So
argue with you.
That's a turnoff.
I think that you are dealing with a very sub segment of gatekeepers.
You mean the right segment? But yeah.
Can
go ahead.
I? No. Okay, so I think I said this last time, so I'm sorry for the redundancy, but Clint, what's your name?
Too
I'm
much
John.
drinking, man. We
John,
gotta tone
no,
down the
no,
freak.
no.
See what happens when girls
John
say
and
Clint
I-
first? Forget everybody else.
John and I were laughing so hard because Clint was like, if you say blue is the best color in America, he's like, I hate blue. I don't ever want to see blue. It's just like the weirdest thing how you are.
What's very
That is
interesting
not-
is that, to your point, D's don't like generalizations, right? And I's love to speak in generalizations, right?
Right.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Al, you're giving me this hard look
Am I
right
the
now.
king of that? Or
Yeah, you are obviously you're the king
quit.
of that.
I need to quit then.
You can't be the VP,
VP. What's VP mean?
vice president. You know, you can't be somewhere on the ladder. You got to be the best.
No,
Yes,
no, I want to
yes.
be nothing
Right.
of that. So how did I get where I'm at if all I did was speak in generalities?
Because we're talking about your comfort zone
Of what?
of speaking in generalities versus
That is so true. Good point. You
Awkward.
are.
I'm
No.
quitting, I guess.
No.
Guys, this is my last episode.
No, that is true. You are so kind to everyone.
Yeah.
You really are. Like I feel like you're
she's
going
pointing to
on.
Al if you're not watching the YouTube
I'm not.
video.
I'm not pointing to
To
Clint.
Clint, who's never been kind to anybody, who has
Oh.
not
But
absolutely
Al,
earned it.
you are totally me when you're working. You're very kind to everyone,
Absolutely, I am.
and you never ever throw people under the bus. You never do any of that.
Well,
kind
nobody
of crap.
should ever throw anybody
Thank you.
under the bus.
Amen.
Speak
That
the
is so
truth.
truth.
But don't,
is the
there's no self gratification because I don't need to throw somebody under the bus to get back to talk to.
Sure.
And I don't wish any harm towards the gatekeeper. I get frustrated with them sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Who doesn't?
Yeah. I mean, and that's a
Man.
normal with anybody.
As the S, do you ever get frustrated?
Well,
with
I
gatekeepers?
don't like. I really don't like when people are just rude. They have no reason to be rude, and they do throw you under
Do you
the
call
bus.
them out when they are rude? I bet that's hard for you.
Yeah, I just kind of walk away.
Would
from
not be
that.
hard for Clint because he got the smile on his
but
face.
Clint's biting his tongue because of what we're saying.
Well, I want to go back to the question you asked or you were talking about is why do you get mad at a gatekeeper? They're literally doing what they're instructed to do.
You don't get mad at gatekeepers,
Why could I? They're doing exactly what somebody told them to do. I have to navigate
but they're
that.
keeping
good-
you. They're
that's a
keeping
good
you.
point.
They're keeping you away
I
from
agree
your
with
goal
that.
in your task.
That doesn't.
That's on you,
that's
not on them.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely right. But here's the deal: when you get frustrated, that's about us.
Yeah, but it's not on them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not on them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
So this is
They're
easy
doing
for
what
me.
They
they're-
have a hard job.
It's the worst job on the planet. I don't want that job.
Yeah.
I don't
No.
want anything to do
No.
with it.
Big
No
people
salesperson wants that
master
job.
their mood.
Okay.
Big people.
So when you
master
say
their mood.
that, he has a valid point of, and I agree with it. How are you upset with them? But I still do get upset
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they
Yeah.
own. Okay, but the reason I should be upset
So
because they
you.
owned me,
Absolutely.
and then I didn't get past them.
How many
right?
people have an ego that is malleable enough that they can admit, you know what, I'm mad at you right now, but really that's on me.
Okay, but
That doesn't happen very often.
it doesn't, and most
You're-
people don't.
It should be though.
Most people don't. My challenge is that when you walk away pissed off because you got turned away by a gatekeeper, do exactly what John's saying. Be malleable. Check that ego.
Exactly.
Because that
That's
is
you and
your
me, though.
fault.
Exactly. That's on you
100%.
guys, not on the gatekeeper. Pull your big boy panties
Don't-
up
I think-
because your bitch ass just got slapped.
That is the biggest
right.
takeaway from this.
And
this,
she or he
100%.
at the gatekeeper is not. You can't hate the company, and you can't hate the process. You can't hate her personally or professionally. They are. It's an obstacle. We're talking about jumping over the obstacle, working around it, or not.
As the D, you go into a very cold interaction, right? You don't know
Yeah.
anybody there, and you gotta do the standard thing of the cold drop in, right?
Yeah.
Or the cold call.
Yes.
And the gatekeeper shuts you down cold.
Yep.
You're not mad. You don't have that moment of
you
being
should be at yourself.
Man,
right. No, absolutely right. It's misdirected. I can absolutely admit to that.
Okay.
Right. I get the
emotion,
right?
but put
you're
it where
emotional.
Put it where it belongs.
But Clint, right, as the D, as the person who's willing to burn down a relationship,
Yeah.
if you feel it's time to do so,
Yep.
you don't say, you know what, I should be better.
You got to go kill yourself. at
To
that
be,
point. Sorry.
man, look, I got to be honest with you here because I don't get mad at that situation. What I get mad at is the fact that somebody set a precedence long before us.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I get mad at.
Absolutely.
That
It's
that
the other
I can't walk in and
douchebags
talk.
that are that have come in and
I mean,
just railed them the
that's
wrong way.
but that's what clicks instantly in my head. Look, Jack or Felicia, whatever
Oh, the
his or her
guy
name
that
is.
walked beyond Melissa.
When
that he told earlier.
when I literally
Well, that's the wrong thing to do.
But
I mean,
Totally
it
wrong.
is.
Totally
That's
wrong.
terrible. But when I see that person and they say, "Look, you don't have an appointment. You got to leave. You can't be in this space. I'm sorry. We have customers. Please move out of the way." Does that piss me off? Yeah, it makes me upset. But I'm upset. a little bit more deeper down the road, and I'm pissed off that somebody set that precedence.
Okay, so I get no, we're not interested, right? Or and you come back with, so you are deciding not to do business with my company. Or
Do you say that as the I?
I've said it before. Yeah,
Really?
He's told me to say that.
absolutely.
How did that go?
They're just mystified, so it doesn't really work on the gatekeeper very well. It works better when you're talking to the decision maker, right?
of course.
So then he
Absolutely.
responds appropriately. Yeah. She looks at very confused.
She's like, I don't know.
I guess.
What do you want me to do with that?
So let me ask you this: so guys, when you walk in and they just ignore you, right? Or pretend to not see you, because that happens too. We've all had that.
Make
happen.
yourself
so,
known.
Like you're invisible. So, let's run through that. So you walk in and you're sort of there, but business is going on, and you're just looking for how do I introduce?
Dummy. Play dummy.
What do you mean? Give me an example.
If I walk in,
example.
if I walk in and
cannot
somebody,
talk today.
if somebody is ignoring me, like,
Yeah,
okay,
you're standing
I
there-
see this person. I'm sitting behind my desk. I see this person walking around in my lobby. I don't know what they're doing. They're trying to they're going to come talk to me. And oh God. And they're already gauging this shit up. Right. And you've already, first of all, probably.
So you're the gatekeeper?
No, I'm saying that if somebody's a gatekeeper and they're watching a salesperson walk through their lobby for the first
It's a
time.
power trip.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't give them, I approach this with quick jabs, because if you let them marinate too long on the fact that you're walking around their lobby, they're building a defense. They're building a
Oh, for
Agreed.
sure.
Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So what you can do to kind of counteract that, in my mind, is to walk over and say, hey, look, man, I think I might be lost. I don't know if you're.
I love it.
So
How hard is that for you as the D, right? Because you hate being
Not at
slow.
all.
Not at
Because
all.
this guy can play that. I've
Yeah.
seen it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I should do it more.
Is
'Cause-
that so? So hold on real quick, because we're talking about this before the show. Is that because you were so good at flip into an I?
no, it's because I'm flipping towards I have an end game in mind. You're a part of my game.
Oh, I
Right.
love it.
Oh,
I love that.
Hold on. It's
You're at
yeah.
war. You're at war.
If you don't
Look,
think
there's
that
no better
D's are,
person.
yeah.
We say manipulative. That's a negative connotation on a word.
Mhm.
I'm being manipulative.
Okay.
Love
A
it.
dummy.
That's the
a
honest.
dummy reverse.
Okay, how
I'm
about
being
you're
manipulative.
playing a game?
No,
I'm
Good
manipulation
job.
is
Come on.
fine at this
I am-
point. That is an
At
honest.
this point, if I have to
Yes.
be put in that situation, I am being manipulative to
Because
get
they're
me through the door.
manipulating you. They
Yeah,
see your uneasiness.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
playing the same damn game. It's a dance.
One of the things that we all know, right, is you either run your game or you run their game, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't interrupt that pattern, we talked about
Yeah.
pattern interrupts in the beginning of this thing, and that is super important. If you don't put them back on their heels, to use a martial arts metaphor, if you don't put them back on their heels and get them off of their game, you don't ever have the chance to run your game.
Yep.
And I am 100% more successful when I run my game
Yep.
than if I let you run your game.
Why would you ever let that person run their game on you? If you're a true salesperson and you have a process,
God, I suck.
Well, it's the difference between being a salesperson and being a sales professional.
okay, that's a good point.
I guess I'm still a salesperson.
Okay, so
Unfortunately, but I'm learning. Hey, that's why I show up every week.
look, that's what we already knew that. No front page news.
Thanks for that. So, Clint,
Hey, as we're winding down here, bow down to the team.
I
D.
almost spit
Hey,
whatever's
look,
in my cup.
hey,
Water.
hashtag
all
Team
of this.
D.
Ice,
I
water.
want to start a little movement here on this podcast. Not me personally, but us.
there's Paul back there.
Yep,
Team
Team
Paul.
P,
Team
team
Paul.
producer back there.
Producer back there.
Yeah. So
Shout out.
Making the magic happen.
If you guys are resonating with us and you're on my side and instead of these other assholes, throw out in the comments section on our social media hashtag Team D. Get some
All right.
support. Let's get that rolling. Hashtag Team
Team
I,
S.
S, or C over there. Hey, if you like Paul,
Eyes, we didn't represent very well today,
if you're
but anyway,
that
we're
if
here.
you're that closet guy that doesn't like to be seen and you like team producer back there, hit that up too, man. We're in.
Hey, we couldn't do it without him.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without him.
Absolutely.
We
Right.
can't do it without the
yeah.
haircuts, the
That's
clean
right.
shaves,
Yeah.
the glasses that see.
Yeah,
All right, hold on, hold
Hey,
on.
Paul did
Finish
my
your
makeup.
point.
Yeah, Paul did my makeup today.
Finish your point.
So anyway,
Back on track.
Yeah, so back on track,
Foundation.
winding this thing down, right? So we're talking about navigating a gatekeeper. We have a couple different ways. I actually have a really good story I want to share with you guys on working around a gatekeeper. It's manipulative. It's reconnaissance. Yep, 3, go. So here's what's happened. I walked into a plant. It's fenced in. It's got C-wire at the top. I've been wanting to work at this plant for years. Everybody tells me you're not going to get past that lady at the front. You're not going to do it. She's tough. She won't even look at you.
How chafing is that
If
for
you
you?
pull your car in the wrong spot in the parking lot, she's going to come out with a couple people and you're going to move your car. I've been told this for years. Sounds like a challenge. Now, I have no business because I can go to a million other places and work and do this thing. But now I want to, because I want experience. I want to know what it's like to deal with that person. I want to know if I can
punched in the face.
But I want to know if I can do it better than everybody that's failed. That's a pretty D
I like
trait.
it. Yeah.
That is D encapsulated right there.
So I literally,
good to me,
I pulled
too.
in the parking lot. I park in a handicap spot.
No. Oh, you're going to hell, man.
No.
If there's
That
a
is
place.
I did it for a reason. I
Never
sat in
do
my
that.
car. Instantly, she comes out and she gives me the line, "Sir, excuse me,
You're not handicapped.
one, you're not handicapped." She didn't say that. She said, "You need to leave. You don't have the right stick," because they all have stickers for the
Yeah.
plant. I said, I'm sorry. I was looking through my. I'm actually looking for this plant. I don't think I'm in the right spot. And I named the plant. And she's like, "No, you're here." I said, "Oh man, that's great." I was actually looking for this guy. I can't remember his name. Man, he was, he's an engineer here. I can't remember his name. He does mechanical work. And I was trying to fish. And she said, "Look, sir, I know what you're doing. And I just need you to leave the premises." And I thought,
Thank you.
damn, no wonder nobody makes this shit. So let me tell you, I knew this guy's name. I knew who I was looking for. I social media the shit out of this guy. And I got like 9 commonalities on pictures and what this guy looked like. And I put together a portfolio in my head of what this guy might drive, what he might look like on today. It's Tuesday. He's not wearing a suit. It's a plant. He's probably wearing some jeans.
You are living this lie so hard.
I love this. This makes me feel so good. Because I will tell you, for the next 6 hours, folks, I sat outside that parking lot, outside the fence across the street, and I waited. And I shit you not, about the last 5 cars that left on shift change, there was that guy came out of his car. Now, this could be luck.
Or stalking.
So
Maybe.
I know. I'm just teasing.
So-
If it wins, who cares,
it
right?
did win. Let me get to that.
If you're a D.
Because this guy got in his car and he drove home. And you know what he does every day on his way home at 4 o'clock? He stops by the local pub and he has a shot. And then he goes home. That's what he does. And guess what?
Your recon level is next level.
Look, man, bring it with you. If this is the tools in your chest, use it. And I don't mean to run the timeout, but I followed that guy there. I set two bar stools down. I let him go. I let him have a shot. I ordered a beer and I said, "Hey, buddy, what do you do?" He says, "Oh, man, I'm an engineer." "What kind of engineer?" "Mechanical." "What do you do?" "I work over here." "That's fantastic. I build stuff that you design. That's awesome. Cool. Man, I've always wanted to get in there. I just want to take a tour of that place. That is so cool that you work there. Come by next Tuesday." And I walked in past, I will call her Felicia because I love that name. I walked past Felicia with a big ass smile on my face 3 days later, like, "Gotcha, bitch."
God.
And I'll tell you,
It is Friday. Love it. Love it.
But let me tell you, I did $3-4 million with them that year.
Fist
Good
bump
for
on
you,
that.
man.
Come on, guys. That's
So-
what we're talking about.
Okay,
That's
so
dedication, folks.
No, that's
for an
success.
S, what that is
How uncomfortable are you?
investigate, figure it out.
How uncomfortable does that make you as an S?
It actually doesn't make me uncomfortable, which is
Really?
not
No.
appropriate. I think you've got to figure out, you have to have a plan and you have to have action after the plan.
You got to trust the plan.
Okay, but
first
let's
of
point
all,
this out.
Right?
He did nothing illegal.
And that
nothing
never-
undermined it.
Nothing.
He did
Even-
recon.
For the first time, I wasn't even uncouth.
Yeah. He moved his car, went outside the gate, but he knew what his objective was and he stayed with the program, even though he got like back.
My point to the story is, how hungry are you? How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
What lengths are you
Good
willing
point.
to go
Agreed.
It's a good
I
point.
agree with that.
Because if you're willing to walk out with your tail tucked and that bother you forever and never take a second chance or never do anything to go past that point, then folks, you are struggling.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And maybe
Go ahead.
this isn't the game for you.
For sure.
I mean, and maybe part of this should be, guys, sales isn't for everybody. And if it's not your game, then go find your game.
That's one point. Sometimes it's it doesn't have to be that elaborate, right? That's a pretty elaborate story.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's pretty deep on, I'm going to defeat this shit because everybody told me I can't get past this lady and I just did. So F you guys, I'm in the plant now and you're not. How'd you get past that girl? Well, let me tell you a story. I love telling this story. But
I think the issue is not figuring out your game plan. I mean, that's his game plan. My game plan is just trying to really care about people, and I really do.
But you said not figuring out your game plan? It is figuring out your game plan.
No, if you don't figure out your game plan, you will not succeed. If you have action.
What drove me through all that scenario was passion and drive. And
Well, someone told you that
dedication.
you couldn't do something.
That's what I'm saying. But that worked well for me. So even to Nan's point, right? So even not to go that, she does it a different way. But you still have to have drive. You still have to have passion for what you
100%.
want and an end game. You have to have those.
I bet you couldn't sell $5 million for my business.
Well, that's... I would typically say challenge accepted if that had anything to do with me making money. But
All right. So with gatekeepers, it sounds like Clint's strategy is to stalk, right?
I think that was an example of overcoming.
That's fair, right?
I
I'm
go
making
back
a joke.
to
I'm making
just
a joke.
figure it out.
Clint, right? If you're a DA and you're dealing with a gatekeeper, what's one piece of advice you give to the person who's listening right now as a D?
So use the tools in your tool chest. Use your strengths. Everybody has some. They may not work for traditional sales, but that's not what we're talking about. So if you have drive and you know that your end game is through that person, sell that person, because that person is step one. I believe strongly that, and make it swift. Don't sit there and be be rememberable.
Yeah. Don't be a
Get
lingerer.
in and say, look, hey, I know that I can't just come in here and drop off all this stuff and it's going to work. I'm not expecting that. I do believe that I add value to your company. I've done a little research. Here's a little bit of information. If you could just please pass this on to the next person, I'd really appreciate that. Boom, you're out. That's what I typically do with a gatekeeper. It doesn't always work, but folks, we're up in our percentages. We're
Absolutely.
not getting 100%.
We're not looking for silver bullets.
Look, if that's your typical day-to-day driver that you have to go do that, yeah, you're going to have to develop a little bit different process than what I said. But if that's my 10%, I'm only dealing with gatekeepers 10% of the time, and I just up my percentage just one nugget.
Yeah,
I'm
1%.
succeeding. I'm moving forward in my process.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Nan has a point. She put up her finger.
Oh no, I'm just time wise. I just think what you said is
Why is
really
time an
important.
issue?
Okay, it's not.
All right, so let's continue down the path, right? If you're dealing with a gatekeeper,
I look to use some charisma and common ground, right? I
explain how common ground shows up in your world, right? Because you are, of the four of us, I think probably the most removed from a gatekeeper as far as
Common ground.
knowledge of the structure of the office, knowledge of the equation, and the knowing somebody behind the scenes.
Is this one instance you're talking about being removed from common ground? Is this one instance as a doctor yourself?
no,
that you
I think
use
it's way,
title?
Hold on.
No, I
hold
never
on.
use title.
I'm going to speak to this point, right? Because I've seen Al in an office. He never talks about him being a doctor.
I never use title.
He talks about the fact of he knows so much about how these offices work, right? Who's your first assist, right? Who's your nurse prac, right? All of this stuff, right? So he's willing to climb that ladder
Wow,
and do it the right way, because man,
That's a big nugget.
patience, right?
Oh, that's the long game.
If you understand that structure, right? It might not make sense to call on the president or the CEO. It might be the CTO, CIO.
Because when the back office or the person behind them goes, oh, that's Dr. Daniel, or oh, we work with, and they pull right past them, it's such a win, right?
And
I was polite to you. I didn't use title. I didn't use the
And I think your expectation before you walk in that door is that I'm probably not going to get through this person.
or that I'm going to have, they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to tell them.
But I think the expectation is really important when you walk through the door, that I'm not going to close this deal today. If by that happens, geez, that's fantastic. That's the best outcome that could ever happen.
Absolutely.
But
that's the home run.
never
That's
feel
what's
that
the
way,
base
though.
hit.
What's that?
You always think you're going to
I always go for the win.
Even better,
Yeah.
what's the taking the 3-2 pitch for a walk?
Absolutely.
True.
That's what your game is. So your expectation is not.
I don't need to hit a home
Don't
run.
sell this today. You're trying to get one step closer
And
to selling.
here's the honest truth. I want to get one step closer and not make her mad, not have her think poorly or him think poorly of me.
Is that an eye thing or is that a medical device, medical services?
It's an eye thing and a medical device thing. It's just been my winning recipe. I mean, everybody's going to have a recipe, but as an eye, I don't want to make anybody mad because I got to see them
Of course
again.
you don't. Yeah,
And if
that makes
she's
sense.
glaring at me because I hurt her feelings, I'm going to know that I did that, and it's going to feel bad. Now I can walk past it for the sake of the dollar and the sale.
I got to be honest, Team D, if you're listening out there, take a nugget of this. I'm writing this shit down mentally too.
Yeah, well, but at the end of the day, I want everybody feeling good about themselves walking out the back door, that I wasn't a dick or something like that to them. But I'm going to speak with authority. I'm going to know what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to let the back of the house come to me. Does that make sense?
Really?
That's fantastic. That's patience. That's, man, I agree. I mean, that's the best case scenario for me.
Anyway.
I love that idea.
I do too.
So Nanette, moving on along the train as an S,
Yes.
how, if you're going to give one nugget,
I think we can all say the exact same thing. I don't think you need to ask anyone. It's our strength. You take your strength and you,
Define your strength.
okay, so the D strength is
Your
No, no,
strength.
no, your
Your
strength.
strength. Talk
just
about
being
you.
patient and really caring about someone.
Patience. What
Belief, passion.
I just really care about the people. I'm not faking that I'm talking
So
to
when
this
you
person.
care, that makes them do what?
It makes them feel comfortable and needed. Like it's not just about me. People get sick of, everyone is so self-consumed. It's always about who.
So I think to kind of maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're passionate about your cause moving forward. So you're relaying the message to the gatekeeper that, hey, I have a passion about a cause to make everything better.
For sure.
I want you to pass this forward.
Yes.
Okay.
I love that idea. I'm going to buck the trend a little bit.
No shit, you are.
Of course I am. As a C, you've got all the knowledge and all the facts. That doesn't help you when you're dealing with a gatekeeper. Make it about them, right? I cannot tell you
That's not
how.
bugging. I think that's what we've all said.
Well, but here's the deal. Like as the C, right? And we're talking about relying
He's
on our
bucking
strengths.
his own trend.
I'm bucking my own
His
trend.
own
as a C.
trend to spew facts.
Don't overwhelm them. Don't treat them like crap. Everyone else has already done that, and it has not been successful. So show up and make it about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
My life changed completely when I stopped making it about me and making it about them. If you were me and you were trying to talk to this person, whoever that is, when would you call?
Yeah. What would you do?
You
They
do
are-
that in a great way.
They are so part of the conversation at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and actually,
and you're making it about them when the last 50 people who have called have not.
True.
Man, and this is me sliding to an S, right?
Yeah,
so
very
let's illuminate that because it's not comfortable for a C.
it's not,
And-
I'm telling
but
you, it is
where
the
do you-
most important factor of life across
What
the
is?
board.
What is?
Making
people
the
attention.
other person important other than yours. If just
Well,
not throwing up on them.
and
you.
I'm not. I didn't make this up. I'm borrowing from somebody else.
Sure.
That's that permission marketing, right?
Absolutely.
You're
right?
you're seeking their permission to move forward
Yeah,
by
that's
their
better.
sympathy, by their engagement.
I was working for you, Al, and I was friends with Jeff, who was the person that I worked with after you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I'm struggling. Like, I don't know how to get past these gatekeepers. And he said, make it about them. He said, go in there and say, absolutely, if you were me, right? Like, I'm not even making this up, right? This is exactly from Jeff's mouth. And I'm sure it's probably from other people as well. And he's like, make it about them, right? Because they get, for lack of a better term, shit on by everyone else who walks in the door because they treat them as a swim move. I got to get past this person to get to my goal.
And I've seen that. And yeah,
If you make it about them, they love you because no one else is doing that.
Yeah.
If you were me and you were trying to get on this guy's calendar, when would you call?
and this is where women, and I'm going to say this, beat the hell out of men. You know, on that at that front door. And it's not because they're prettier or they know more than we know. They are more compassionate in general, and their egos don't get in the way in general, and they're not as brass and they're not as abrupt and they're not trying to be as cool
For sure.
as most dudes.
Absolutely. I'm willing to bet on a woman in a sales
Oh
role.
hell yeah!
If she can get past all the limiting things about being a woman in a sales role, about being assertive.
Which is what?
Well, being assertive.
Oh
Being
yeah, we're in
assertive.
trouble
Hold on.
now.
Hold on. No. no, hold on. This is important, right? If you are a woman in a sales role and you are assertive, good for you.
Yeah.
Right? It is absolutely necessary. Don't let anyone tell you that you're being a bitch or inapproachable or anything else like that. You're doing your job. And you're doing it well. Because when you mix that with the empathy
and the kindness,
you crush.
Oh,
you absolutely crush. Right?
That's the recipe.
So,
because we can't take our genitals off and be you. So, I mean, and I'm saying that politely.
For sure.
But everybody understands what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right? The mindset's different. So, and wrapping up, right? I think all of us have given some nuggets, right? Anybody else have anything else to add before we launch or
I think
before
the
we wrap this
takeaway
up?
is think of someone other than yourself.
For sure, right? It's not about getting past this person and treating them as less than you. You can act like you belong, which is important, right? Because if you show up and you act like you're supposed to be there, that'll get you there a lot.
I want to take the trailer away from the truck here and say that those people, is that too redneck?
Absolutely not.
You might be a redneck
I
if.
just had to sort of catch up. But go ahead.
Sorry. These people that you're talking to, these gatekeepers, let me tell you, they wear the same logo as the decision maker.
Absolutely.
They are a part of a team. Treat them as such.
Imagine how bad they feel if they let a bad salesperson through.
Yeah, way worse.
Right? That guy comes out of the office and says, "You let this fucking guy through? What the hell were you expecting?"
They get yelled at.
And they get crapped on and yelled at, and
but
that sucks.
Enough of those times is exactly
and
what
hold
we're
on,
dealing
and
with.
they don't make enough to
put up with that.
Absolutely.
They really
But-
don't. You're just bringing misery into their world.
You're right.
And
But
you need to be
I
hung.
think if your guide is to go through them, which I think is probably the best bet, to sell through them, not around them, not
You meaning with
to
them,
run-
through them, not like running
No. I'm talking about with them.
Yeah.
So using them as a part of your process and realizing that they're a part of the bigger step, a part of the team that you want to be a part of and partnership that you want.
Yeah.
If you include them in that and you let them know that, I think that kind of speeds up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Figure out
Right?
that arrangement.
They've got the inside lane already.
Dude, they know everything about that company.
Absolutely, right? So, ask them, hey,
Provided they've been there more than a week.
we do a lot of stuff.
But that may be
Yeah, that helps too. 'Cause
That
they
makes-
want
sure.
they want some clout,
right.
right? There's a double-edged sword
Right.
there,
Yes,
right?
there is.
We do a lot of different things, or in Al's words, we do soup to nuts. I'm a little bit
Never heard
curious
that.
if there was one thing that the decision makers had concerns about or frustrations with. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Right. Ask them that question. Make them part of your process, as Clint is talking about. That's how you get that rapport built and that trust. And we're going to talk a lot more about rapport and trust, because I think that those are two important levers that most people don't pay enough attention to.
Absolutely.
But
And-
Al's got one more thing.
No, I was going to say, to wind down, sales has a lot of facets to it, right?
Absolutely.
If you haven't already discerned that, we hope to enlighten you on that so that you really embrace this process of the profession, because I call it a real profession.
Absolutely.
And everybody is in this profession. I don't care what you do.
And not to cut you off, but
No.
this is super important. Sales gets treated like
A stepchild.
a stepchild,
Yeah.
right? And it's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's not.
No,
right?
it's the
If
king
you're-
of the fucking hill.
If you are good at what you do, you are in demand.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, guys. You can make as much money as you can put in that bank account.
Absolutely.
And it's all electronic, so it goes to the moon.
I'm going to flip the script a little bit, because I've heard this said by a number of people. Your number one prospect, or your number one client, is someone else's number one prospect. Your number one salesperson is someone else's number one hire.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
if you are not enabling them and doing the right things and everything else, they're going to leave. So pay attention to your salespeople.
Yeah.
They're bringing everyone else in
So true. I just
so
had
you're
a guy.
speaking to management, not sales, when you say that.
a little bit, right? But
A little
I'm
bit or
trying
what?
I'm trying to build up the salespeople, right? Because we get right
Build them up.
sales. Hold on.
No, give
Here's
them
the
the
deal, right?
tools to do their
I've
job.
worked for some big corporate entities, AT&T. I've worked for Wells Fargo. I've worked for
Chase.
Sprint, right? Chase, BBVA Compass, right? The number third bank in the southern area, right? Most sales and corporate entities is much of what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
And that's terrible.
Yeah, what have you done for me? And if you haven't,
Right.
get the fuck out.
If I have 5 years of crushing your quota and I have one bad year, you don't get to treat me like crap.
Okay, but if they do, go get another job.
Absolutely. That's what I'm
Stop
saying.
the madness.
That's what I'm saying.
If you are really good at sales, you go wherever you want to, you get
Wherever
what
you
you
want.
want.
I cannot tell you. Just
I'm saying it the nice way. Al's saying it the mean way.
yeah, and just
Or,
last
or
night.
not even mean, right? But just
Grow
straight to
the
the point.
nuts that go with your income. If your income's not there, you don't have it, right?
So many people have companies and they are like, man, everyone wants to do the numbers. No one wants to do the sales. If you're out there and you want to do sales and your little part of you knows how to do it, we can teach you how to do it. I'm telling you, it is a fantastic
Won't be
place to
easy.
be.
It'll take some guts, some fortitude, and some change on your part.
We've done it.
Because we've all changed. We've all had to go
Absolutely.
a different way.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
No.
Yeah, there's no winning recipe here for every single person out there. Otherwise, everybody be truly successful if you studied one art.
Absolutely.
There's just not. You're all different. You're going to deal with different situations differently. You gotta build your own process and your own recipe. These nuggets that we talked about today, getting past one situation in sales, one slice of the pie. Take the information and build it into your process. See what works for you. Build upon that. Write in the comments back to us what worked for you and what didn't, because we're still here learning.
We want to hear it.
And I think that to wrap this up on the gatekeeper side, we're looking for as much help as we're trying to provide for you too. So once again, provide that information. John, you want to close us out?
Absolutely. Right. We're further along the path than a lot of people, but we don't have it all figured out. So if you have done more work on yourself or the people you're talking to, respond back, right?
Let's help each other.
Comments, reviews, all that stuff helps us get better. We're not attached to we're right. We're all just trying to improve. And that's why we've gotten to as far as we've gotten. So if you're listening to this, follow us on social media. Everything is at Sales Throwdown, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Hashtag your team.
Hashtag your team. Absolutely. Put it on Twitter, right? If you're a C, I can't wait to hear from you. Yeah. If you are on the team of our producer, Paul, man, alliteration.
Paul rocks.
I love it.
Paul rocks.
Yeah.
Paul rocks, right? He gets no camera time and no mic time, but he's legit. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Paul.
Exactly.
So whatever team you're on, DIS or C or Paul, put it out there on Twitter, right? Like, we want to hear from that stuff because that's how we get better. Yeah. If you like Clint more than me, I can't wait to read it.
Imagine that.
Right? So follow us on social media. If you're watching us on YouTube, check out the cups. We're going to be selling something similar to this very, very soon.
Giving them away too.
And shirts.
We're doing some promotions.
Shirts. If you're Team C and you want to rock that shirt across your chest, game on, man. I'm down. Take a picture. I want to see it.
Absolutely.
So does Al.
Yeah. Let's see how far to the ends of the earth you can take Team D. Mount Everest. I want to see it.
Follow us if you get any value out of this. If you know someone who's struggling with Gatekeepers, share this with them. If you have questions, tweet us, Facebook us, Instagram us. We want to help. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Have a great night.
Good night.